Sure. So many what's up at 23 live, bro. And what a fair area.
Good morning, everyone. Could you please take your seats? This Good morning, everyone. Do you have a slide that says that they need to wear headphones? Thank you. This is beginning. That's right now. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Do you have a mic? But will they hear me with this? I mean, will they hear me without the headphones? Try to get stuff. Good morning, everyone. Please wear your headsets Can you all wear set headsets? It's a soundproof room, so unless you have the headset, you would be able to hear. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I do that. I maybe do after the time. Yeah. Okay, we should be ready to start now. Sorry for a few technical delays. I hope that you can all hear. Welcome to this roundtable for subnational entities titled From Global Pledges to Local Implementation, Unlocking Multi-Level Action for COP30. If you've been here in the implementation forum since yesterday, you know that implementation is at the heart of the climate weeks. And we are very glad to bring this conversation to very concrete solutions and how we can support multi-level action in the dialogue between national and local representations. My name is Monique Nardi. I am from the United Nations Climate Change Secretariat. We work in the engagement team, which is mandated to engage with non-party stakeholders and really facilitate that bridge between party and non-party. And of course, subnationals, including cities and regions, are a key part of the non-party stakeholders group. I'm really pleased to have you today. We have a group of excellent speakers, and we have a fantastic moderator who will be taking over the session. Her name is Corazon Kilisu, but she also goes by the name of Kari. We've been working together these last few days, and it's been great putting the session together with you. Um, I'll just give the floor to Corey to take over the session, and welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Monique. Good morning to our distinguished delegates and valued participants and friends, and welcome to this important roundtable from global pledges to local implementation, unlocking multi-level action for COP30. My name is Corazon, and I will be moderating the discussion today. So we are gathered here as part of Climate Week 2, focused on our fundamental challenge, ensuring that bold global climate commitments are implemented effectively at the local level. And that's why today's event is designed to bring together national negotiators, implementers, and local leaders in a shared dialogue, not just to exchange ideas, but to highlight replicable solutions, identify implementation gaps, and elevate local priorities on the road to COP30. Without further ado, I'm pleased to invite Ms. Nigar Arapadai, COP29 Climate High Level Champion, to deliver the keynote remarks. Over to you, Nigar.
Thank you, Cordy. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished friends, it's a great honor to be here today as COP29 high-level champion. Just to remind you that this role envisages the working with non-state actors, with the great community of non-state actors like private sector, subnationals, cities, academia, and from that perspective, we are getting the feedback from you to bridge them with the parties. So it's great platform today. We have party representatives and subnational representatives here. Dear ladies and gentlemen, over the last 10 years, if we look back since Paris Agreement, a lot has been done. Yes, it's still not enough. It should be done more, but a lot has been done. And in all sectors, we see some progress. And the role of subnationals is extremely important here. I would like to remind you, give you just a couple of examples how cities and regions are already taking the action. For example, Medellin in Colombia is creating green corridors to tackle urban heat. Seville in Togo has introduced subsidies to help households adopt solar energy. Vancouver in Canada have implemented carbon limits on certain new buildings. These are some cases to showcase that the work is going on. These leaders are paving the way for ambitious climate action, proving that bold steps are not only possible, but also profitable and popular. Collaboration between national and subnational governments is essential to bridge gap between climate commitments and real impactful implementation. COP28 was a step forward, putting multi-level action firmly on the agenda. We saw the launch of the first ever local climate action summit showcasing local climate initiatives. The coalition of high ambition multi-level partnership, CHAMP, was introduced with 77 countries pledging to strengthen collaboration between national and subnational governments. COP29 that took place in Baku just a couple of months ago helped catalyze the momentum. We launched the Multi-Sectoral Pathways Declaration for Resilient Cities, Baku, which established a cohesive framework to national policies with local actions with a renewed focus on health, urban agriculture, and disaster resilience. It is supporting COP to COP continuity across multi-level governance initiatives and continues to amplify the role cities, states, and regions are playing in reaching national level targets for both reducing emissions and adapting to the reality of climate change. And we know that adaptation issue for Africa is extremely important. For COP30, as you know, we are working closely with COP30 presidency, and I think that the idea that COP30 presidency has on action agenda is extremely important and right. It has lots of logic behind to look back to all the initiatives that has been done so far, to put them in a frame and to see what is working and to kind of to help those initiatives to make the next step. So we are working together. We're supporting these ideas, and it's extremely important for us to get feedback from you because this presidency is trying to make the open dialogue with non-state actors to get the feedbacks from all the groups to be able to improve the process. So we are working closely in many initiatives, and we would like to put multi-level governance front and center at COP30. This is the main mission of COP30 presidency. And I would like to take this chance to thank C40 cities, Global Covenant of Mayors, ICLEI, Under 2 Coalition, UCLG, FMDV, and many more for making our collective effort a success. And as national governments prepare to develop their NDCs, I urge you to engage with your subnational leaders and seize the opportunity to bolster city, regional, and local level climate policy, the opportunity to unlock finance from all sources through clear regulatory frameworks, and the opportunity to establish a vision for climate action grounded in locally led solutions. So we try to have the active participation of this process, and thank you so much for your feedbacks.
Thank you, Nigar, for those insightful remarks and for setting the tone for the session. So with this context, we will now begin our first segment, Advancing Multi-Level Climate Governance and Partnership, around the following key questions. What best practices have emerged for engaging local and subnational entities to support the design and implementation of NDCs and NAPs? What existing mechanism platforms are most effective in enabling vertical integration of climate action plans between national, subnationals, and local levels? To kickstart this discussion, I would like to invite our icebreaker speakers, Mr. Trevino Forbes, Mayor of Walvis Bay, Namibia. Welcome. And Ms. Edu Effium, Director General of Cross River State, Nigeria. For other distinguished representatives from national and subnational governments, please raise your hand or signal if you'd like to come in, and kindly requesting to keep your remarks short so we can hear from as many perspectives as possible. Over to you, Mr. Trevino Forbes.
Thank you so much for having me. Let me remove this, otherwise I'll hear myself speak. First of all, let me start by saying local authorities and local governments are second to none. We are the closest form of government to the people and also to their challenges, and climate change is no exception. I believe that as a country, we can do better in terms of coming together as national government, also local government, there is somehow a bridge between the two, national and local government. But I would like to compliment the national government for putting up agendas that local government is adhering to, and also aligning our local agendas to that of the national agenda to best promote developments within the climate sphere. For example, if you look at Walfish Bay, we are currently the first movers in green shipping, and that is because of the green hydrogen that was set up in Walfish Bay. So there is a collaboration between not only government and central government and local government, but also stakeholder engagement, which I believe is essential to getting things done. In Windhoek, for example, we are one of the first cities to have a fully functional reclamation plant years ago. This also because of the foresight and that agendas that is operational between the two entities. But I do believe that we should start looking at how we can have a more bottoms-up approach to issues and not a top-down. And that is the current situation that we are facing as local government and local leaders, that we are adhering to what is being sent down to us, but the communication from the bottom up is not really considered, and I think that is something that we can really do better as. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Trevino. Over to you, Miss Edu Effiong.
Everyone, thank you so much. I think I will also pull this down. All right. So my name is Edu, and I'm the Director General of the Cross River State Council on Climate Change. So just a little correction there. So Cross River State is a forest state. And when it comes to the synergy between the national and the subnational government and the local government, so the three tiers of government, I would really like to thank the Nigerian government, because starting from Red Plus, we approach Red Plus saying, hey, we are seeking a two-track approach where implementation is done at the subnational level, because many of the resources are controlled by the subnational governments. So we want to build that capacity. We want to strengthen institution at the subnational level. And Cross River State was Nigeria was given that privilege to do a two-track approach. So we built capacity, we strengthened institution, and it became a model for other states. So that we started that synergy, we started building that platform, because really, whatever ideas, be it in the NDC, in the NAP, without the subnational and the local government implementing, working on it, it will not fly. Because, like the Trevino said, the subnational and the local, they are the closest to the people, to the citizen. They know the terrain, they know the peculiarities, the issues, the challenges more than the national government. So Nigeria has endeavored to build that link, that bridge. It's a work in progress. We are not there yet, but I believe we've started well, and we will keep pushing and setting that example. For instance, the free trade zone in Cross River is to confer a free trade status for investors in green infrastructure. And we work without the national government. We can't, we wouldn't make much progress. And they have given us all the go ahead and the support to do that. Yeah, the bottlenecks are there, but we believe as we continue to dialogue, bringing in the communities, we will improve on this and be able to showcase that this is possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't touch on the second point. That was also the second question. I think that it is well known that local governments, we do not have the necessary technical skills, sometimes also the financial capacity to embark on certain projects. In the case of Walfish Bay in Namibia currently, we have a joint meeting with different organizations that's taking place today. ALAN, which is the Association for Local Authorities, NALAO, which represents the administrative head administration of the local authorities, and the covenant of the mayor's platform as well in Namibia. And these entities are trying to come together to form a bridge between local government and central government. And Alan has been doing since I think 4 years ago. Alan has been doing that work quite well. I'm really impressed with what they did on bringing local government closer to national government. But then you look at entities that local government, for example, can engage in, like ICLI, COMSA. These are the ones that put you on a national field and expose you nationally, not only to funders but also to like-minded local authorities that's all struggling with the same kind of issue that you are struggling. I always say that you might have the solution for my problems and I might have the solution for your problems, and that collaboration and connection that ICLI and COMSA brings to mayors and local authorities all across the continent and all across the world for that matter is really invaluable. Like you experience so much through these entities. If I look at what Walfish Bay has done through the cooperation of ICLI, we've done some studies with ICLI, and my participation in COP has brought youth climate funding to Walfish Bay. So I believe more local government should engage these entities to really have a seat at the table, because you can't say anything if you do not have a seat at the table, and you can't really do much for your local government if you don't have a seat at that table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trevino, for those remarks. You have sort of like taken us to the second bit of the discussion, which is on finance. But before we get there, we'd like to open the floor to the distinguished representatives for anyone with their remarks. National and subnational governments, please raise your flag or your hand. Going once, going twice. Okay. Please introduce yourself.
My my name is Madina Hadjital. I'm deputy mayor for Dakar City, Senegal. Do you have translation? No, okay. Uh, because normally I would like to talk the presentation in French and someone could make a resume in English in a few minutes, maybe.
For now, we do not have a translator.
Marie Jose is coming.
Oh, okay. Can we perhaps go to the second session and then we can come back to you? Great, thank you. So thank you to the first speakers. Now, with this context, we will now go on to move to the critical enabler of climate action, financing and enabling local and subnational implementation. So local and subnational actors are often on the front lines of climate impacts, but also face limited access to resources, data, and capacity. So in the next 30 minutes, we will explore solutions and tools that can unlock climate finance and support mechanisms at the local level. So I'd like to invite all participants to respond to the following questions. What types of supports, for example, finance, policy frameworks, data access, technical assistance, are most urgently needed to scale local action, especially in vulnerable and under-resourced areas? The second question, which finance tool, blended finance, municipal stroke, national green bond mechanisms, direct finance, fund access, have been effective in supporting local and subnational action? I would like to first invite our icebreaker speakers. So we have Mrs. Regina Nakazi, Mayor of Nansana in Uganda, Mr. Hongpei Lee, Chief of the Mitigation Branch, Climate Change Division, UNEP, and Mr. Peter Odhengo, who is a Kenya Party representative. So interventions will take place and we will invite you to keep your remarks very short. So over to you, Mrs. Regina Nakazi.
Thank you so much, moderator. First of all, I come from Uganda. Uganda has municipalities, and it has 41, and it's over 600 town councils plus cities. And you find that we are the leading implementers of the NDCs, and this calls for, in terms of infrastructure, we are doing a lot in integration in our departments. We are also doing a lot in tree planting and also waste to energy. But to find that these are locally driven with no support, there's no prioritization in our budgets from the national government. So our call is that as they prioritize other issues like security, to be very important that local councils are really assisted when it comes to the budget allocation at the national level. Then secondly, also the other major issue is a key enabler of this progress has been the technical access to finance, which still remains a challenge, as I've said, and also we lack what we call technical capacity that limits our scale to be able to prioritize climate at the local level. But of course, we are dealing with ICLEI as our blocker to help us do what we are doing today. They've been guiding us and through project design, because NASA is a member. They've been a lot in feasibility assessment, and also they've been doing a lot in funder engagement, enabling us to do what we call peer-to-peer learning. Last month, I would like to thank Clay, what it was able to help us host our town hall COP in collaboration with other and with the ICLEI Africa. What does this one call for? It was only open to us because we are able to invite different facilitators for the ministry, and it was our first time as a mayor to learn about the NDCs, because the people, technical people came from the ministry and the district to come and be able to take us through. So I think it's really very important that as we do a lot, we need to feed into the NDCs and also the UNFCCC process. At this juncture, during this meeting, it will be important that our local voices can only be appreciated, because for us, we lack the capacity to invite and be able to facilitate the different stakeholders. So it will be important that in our plans, we look more at the local voices, the religious leaders, the women, and the youth. Further, NASA is advancing an eco-restoration system with support from Bloomberg. We have been able to plant over 6,600 trees, and also been able to reach out to different, during the mayor's launch, I've been able to reach out the women in the markets who didn't know much about what environment is. And also I've been able to reach out to the border, and among others, who do a lot of noise pollution. So I think it's important that we come onto a strategy that can be able to help us to cascade down to the people who need our information. We're also addressing what we call energy, and also energy poverty, and also deforestation. We are rolling out clean cooking stoves using an Actors project, and also our youth groups. We have 56 of them. They are constructing input stove within household for the disabled, for the elderly, and also those who have bigger families, and also in the what we call the informal settlements. So I think that during this, we are really contributing. When we reduce on deforestation, we are reducing on charcoal use and also firewood, and in a way we are able to contribute to the targets of ecosystems as regarding any disease at the national level. We're also tracking, we have been able to support young people in coming out with an app. This app is helping us to monitor environmental abuse, strengthens our coordination, and also have been able to accelerate responses within the municipality. So as a municipality, we have already integrated them into our programs. So I think it's important that these events both reporting can help the national level and the UNFCCC to reinforce accountability and also demonstrating progress. At the end, our dear listeners, our efforts are also shown that leadership is very important when you partner with other people like ICLEI and also other supporters, the philanthropy like Bloomberg, to support NASA, and NASA as a municipality of choice, really moving very fast. I'm very proud to ICLEI for what they have done in NASA, and I thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I want to respond to the questions with three messages. The first one, localization of the SDGs is imperative. Without effective and meaningful engagement of local actors, it is not possible to achieve objectives of global and regional environmental commitments. UNEP is committed to enabling the localization to support the implementation. So over 60% of SDG targets and 70% of climate solutions lie within subnational jurisdictions, according to the IPCC. Yet local governments remain underfunded and disconnected from national financing systems. When the urban infrastructure gap exceeds 4.5 trillion US dollar, even rising by 27% if we want climate smart infrastructures. So UNEP co-leads the Local 2030 Coalition's working group on local finance, which positions local finance as development finance. The coalition, which brings together 14 UN agencies and all key cities networks and other stakeholders, equips UN country teams and local actors with tools like the localization markers and the integrated local financial frameworks to align budgets with SDG priorities. UNEP is translating this into action through programs it leads: Urban Shift, Generation Restoration, and the Enabling Pledge implementation for cooling facility, etc. My second message is we need to build the architecture for local finance. UNEP is helping scale what works, translating successful pilots into systematic enablers that connect local needs with international finance mechanisms. A few examples. The first one, the design of Green Cities Guarantee Fund under the SDSN Global Commission to de-risk urban investments and unlock large-scale capital flows for city-led climate actions. Another one is to produce regular reports on the state of urban climate finance. The State of Finance for Nature in Cities introduces a budget tracking tool to help cities quantify and justify nature investments, making them visible to funders and aligned with global standards. Building city capacity to prepare bankable products and bridge the private public language and the Urban Shift Finance Academy. Lastly, we are working to embed the cities into country platforms, aligning local investment pipelines with national climate goals and enabling access to blended finance under the umbrella of CCFIA, Cities Climate Finance Leadership Alliance. My last message is COP30 is a key milestone to deliver tools to embed subnational priorities into climate strategies, ensuring a bottom-up approach to climate action. The moment is key within NDC 3.0 timeline to move from consultation to implementation by embedding subnational priorities directly into NDCs, NAPs, and the long-term low-emission development strategies. Through the NDC Act and the Investment Framework and the Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnership, CHAMP, UNEP supports countries like Kenya, Malaysia, and Iraq in aligning national climate planning with local realities, including sectoral investment plans and government reforms. COP30 is a key moment to align subnational and national investment priorities and create direct pipelines that will reach local and regional governments. We will launch a few flagship things during COP. The first one, to beat the heat implementation drive, coordinated by UNEP-led coalition to provide the countries and cities with tailored technical assistance, heat assessments, and access to finance for passive and nature-based cooling. Another one is the food waste breakthrough to support cities in integrating food waste targets into local climate lines and indices, offering technical support and a peer exchange platform. The third one is a global alliance of buildings and construction solutions to support cities to implement net zero emission and resilient buildings. The last one is to co-host the building and the cooling pavilion with Global ABC and the Cool Coalition as lead organizers. We will be supporting cities in restoring ecosystem and addressing water-related climate risks through a ministerial roundtable on cities, nature, and climate co-hosted with our partner UN Habitat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Peter.
So thank you very much. First of all, let me take this opportunity to correct my name. My name is Peter Odengu, not Odhenho. That's me. Yes. Second,
Well noted. Thank you.
secondly, from the National Treasury and Economic Planning, NDA for GCF, also coordinating financing locally led climate action, LOCA program, jointly with BICRAF, building urban resilience program, and of course, coordinating Africa Climate Fund's national designated authorities. So I think that is very important to get the perspective right. One, Kenya is going to share with you what we have done, how we have translated international declarations, ambitions, actions, the Paris Agreement, the UNFCCC, what we have all agreed over the last 30 years. How do we do it? We started by coming up with policies, laws, strategies, regulation, and governance structures, which are prerequisite for devolving, for mobilizing global resources, and then devolving to the lowest level possible. Two, Kenya came with a model before COVID, which is called locally led, not bottom up. Locally led means resources mobilized by the nationals are put together and then put into a kind of a two-grant system. That resource is now taken to the subnational. The subnational, which we call counties. In Kenya, we have 47 counties, and I'm very happy to have them here. We know they have structures, constitutional and legal, but they don't have prerequisite capacity to mobilize the global finances to respond to climate mitigation and adaptation. And when you come to the African continent, the priority is adaptation. We are already in the warming up. Less water, high floods, increased frequent droughts, livestock dying, our grandmothers suffering. That is what is urgent to be responded to immediately. As a result of that, in 2020, the Kenya government have the National Treasury and Economic Planning, which is equivalent to Ministry of Finance, realized that the Ministry of Finance have got the recipe mandate to mobilize and provide resources to the local people. We came up with a program called Financing Locally Led Climate Action Program, LOCA. This was a multi-donor program of which bilateral World Bank, Kenya approached World Bank, and World Bank committed $150 million US. Then we got into our best bilaterals. Sweden, $14.4 million US. Germany, KfW, $34.4 million US. Danida, Danish government, $8.9 million. The government of Netherlands, $10 million US. Kenya government, the national, $5 million US. All the 47 counties subnational committed $75 million US. Later, IMF came in and said there is a framework which we must be under the Resilience Sustainability Fund committed 544 million US dollars. But before that, we realized we need to have a program because government don't fund strategies, no action plan. Even NDC as they are done is not fundable under the Public Finance Management Act. You have to transform them into program. So we transformed our NDC 1, upgraded NDC, and came up with one program of 1 billion US dollars for a period of 10 years. Within that 10 years, now the development partners came in, we crowded in that money, then the money put into a pot, financing locally led, then that money, 10% is kept at the national level for capacity building, and it is not capacity building for TA. The balance of the 1906 billion is divided into two grants. One grant is called County Climate Institutional Support Grant. That is the local grant. That grant is to enable build the local capacity at the subnational level to enable them manage these resources that are identified there. Then after that, that is 100,000 US dollars per year for 3 years because building institutional and governance structures take time. After the third year, now the investment grant comes in. That investment grant is called County Climate Resilient Investment Grant. It is not a project because climate change has changed from being a weather perspective to a developmental agenda. And within the developmental agenda, when you want to build the resilience, which starts at the local level, it is divided into 3 key areas. 1, water. 2, climate smart agriculture. 3, restoration of degraded landscapes. And 4, disaster risk management. And the 5th component is where we are with my friend from UNEP, now providing clean energy sources within in-house. Now, those are grants. Then within this grant, the program is program for results. It's not just giving money, it's not just training, it's not workshop, it is investment. Then a tool was developed to calling participatory climate risk assessment. Participatory climate risk assessment is a tool that we developed specifically for the local people themselves within their villages to identify climate hotspots. When they identify those climate hotspots, then Kenya goes beyond the subnational level. It goes to what we call a ward. Ward is collective of villages. Then now the people come together to prioritize according to their ward. And in that, the money that we dedicated at the national, at least there is an average of resources, $1.25 million per year for the next 5 years for each county to respond and finance those projects which are identified by none other than my old grandmothers and children and women. But this is what we want. So what have we done? We have translated Paris Agreement of mobilizing resources from the global systems, bring it at home, then make it at ease and ensure that it is there for 10 years. And then the local people now take their own charge. Then they said, we want water here. Others say we want restore, tree planting. Others say we want clean energy. Once that one is done, then it is prioritized, then it is result-based, then a series of government come to evaluate, and then the money is allocated. It's allocated based on the performance. So where are we today? COP30 must be different. Given the global challenges of declining resources, a number of countries apart from Denmark have already reduced their ODA. A number of countries have reduced. With that declining reduction of the global financial systems and debt in the country, it means that we have to look for different avenues. And if you look at this within those 3 years, the local subnational have mobilized an equivalent of $7.1 billion by themselves, because the program requires them, they dedicate at least 1.5% of their development project to respond to climate change adaptation and mitigation. So the money which would have gone on other things are now mobilized, and within this program, they create what it calls special purpose account, county, local level, subnational climate change funds. Now we have 47 of them, and once the money is transferred there, you can't move it. You have to track it, tag it, and then link it with the local. So what is the last message here? One, global discourse should give room for the local people, indigenous people, youth, women, and very old people know what they want to do. Give them the money and give them the decision as we have given them. And we are laughing with them today. Two, COP 2030 should be a different COP. It's not COP of me talking good English and French. It should be a COP of my brother sharing the views of what he has implemented. I wish I had a time I would have shown you videos, very short video to see it can be done. It has been done. The tools are there. And we hope the high level champion, this is the moment to change because global systems have been challenging. For example, the withdrawal of USAID in many African countries have left a serious gap. But with this program, we have taken those where they've left. Those services are now integrated because the people has prioritized them. Policy number one, good governance number two, global friendship, bilateral and multilaterals, very key. The multilateral government like World Bank, IMF are now responding. The next thing is bringing in the private sector. Of the 2,245 projects that we have financed, 180 are now becoming bankable because it has been de-risked and they are in water, they are in agriculture, there is in infrastructure. So we have now demystified adaptation, which a number of people have said is not bankable. Water is bankable. Clean energy for solarizing water is bankable. Good roads is bankable. Climate information system at the village level, early warning system for preparedness is bankable because if you are running your investment, you need that information. We have depacked that and we are happy to share the experience and we are going to COP30 with a different narrative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Odhengo. I love the passion. So we will now open the floor. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Carlos de Freitas. I'm the Executive Director of FMDV, Global Fund for Cities Development. We work on funding and financing solutions at the global level with the national governments and, of course, our members, mayors and governors. Just to say that I would go in the same line as Mr. Odengo from Kenya. We need to step out of those global conversations, trying to find the challenges and the solutions. We all know the challenges, we know the solutions. The thing that is missing is the plumbing, is the way to localize the global conversations into actionable frameworks at the national level. And Kenya, of course, with the FLOCA program is a very good example that it is doable even in Africa to make sure that projects, pipelines are put together, support to subnational governments are put together, because there is a strong will from the national government and especially the ministries of finance, treasury, and planning. They are very key and they don't contribute to the conversation. So I think that one key component, apart from the solutions, is to bring the right people at the table. So the ministries of finance, the national and subnational development banks, because we need strong financial support within the country's framework. So we need ownership on the mechanisms to make sure that first we get diverse set of innovations in terms of funding and financing, and make sure that we have the right financial intermediaries that understand the national priorities and the articulation with the local needs. And we will get from the NDCs, the paper wise orientation, real investment plans and real innovation frameworks and their own exchange between the different countries. Just to say that we are now passed the Financing for Development conference in Sevilla. Country platforms were promoted. National development banks were promoted. So we have the framework. And we need to make sure that the bridges between the different international conferences are real. So COP30 should elaborate on these legacy from those international documents like the Sevilla Compromiso commitment. But again, country platforms for localizing finance. We need the financial architecture for localizing finance. There is no countries in the global south that has built a strong financial architecture for subnational finance. We need to go to this kind of processes. Urbanization finance is key for the national economies. So we need to go there. We need those financial intermediaries, national and subnational development banks with strong mandates. We need, of course, financial engineering capacities. So we need to step out of the process of having a 3-4 years program from a donor country or a multilateral development bank with consultants. We need to build the capacity within the national institutions to make sure that, again, there is innovation and adaptation to the realities at the local level. And for that, convincing ministries of finance, having some track record, like for Kenya now, the language used by Mr. Odengo, demystifying subnational finance, subnational capacities to bring pipelines of projects. That's very key. But for that, we need to have a framework with ministries of finance, regulatory sandboxes. We need to pilot test the kind of innovation we need, and then to replicate it once we see that it's working. Actually, if you give $1 to a city, it's the same. We can have a parallel conversation with what happened with microfinance. If you finance the poor, they will reimburse and they will invest in local development. That's the same thing for cities. And it's time that subnational governments are recognized as the first partners of national governments, and they need this financial architecture. We have the tools, we have the initiatives. We need now the strong leadership at COP30 to make things go together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you. So I want to come in the aspect of the private sector. Okay, so I'm representing a subnational government, and we know there's been a gap in getting funding from the federal government. So what we've done in Cross River State is that we've developed a robust public-private partnership model, a law, a council, and a bureau, where the state government provide the enabling environments, the incentive. For instance, we've created a green manufacturing corridor where we provide a free trade status to developers, investors in green infrastructure, e-mobility, renewable energy. So yeah, and also for sustainability, because we know that private sector are not for the Christmas. They want their business to go on. So working along with the government, we've recorded success in the in e-mobility, in renewable energy, and in smart agriculture and nature-based solution. Working with the through our PPP model. So one of the conditions of the PPP model is that the local content is a key factor. So that is where the community needs, the community is actively part of it. We ensure that this is this aspect is integrated into any technical or financial model that is presented by an investor. So yeah, that's the gap that we've been able to fill, because that enabling environment has attracted a lot of investors to our state, and in some cases, the state even said, "Hey, we will contribute financially." So that political will and the robust PPP agreement ensures that even when there is a change in a regime, government regime, their investment is secured. And lastly, I want to congratulate and to call for further strengthening of organizations like that have given a voice to subnational government and cities, like Under Two, like C4 and Champ, and many others, because through them we've been able to access funding to build capacity, to strengthen our institution, and I believe they can do more. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So we'll have LGMA and then followed by UN Habitat and then Brazil and South Africa. LGMA?
Thank you so much. And I'll be very brief because we'll have an intervention later on as well. But I think just touching on the JAMP initiative and how it relates to the problem or the opportunity of subnational finance as well. We've seen that building those linkages between national governments and subnational governments is really critical to surfacing those subnational needs in a clearer way that align with national decision making and rationales as those planning processes are being conducted, as we've seen in this NDC 3.0 process. So speaking to the Kenyan example, examples in Brazil, ongoing work in Philippines and the Morocco, just to name a few. Um, Once that dialogue is convened, that enables a sharing of needs in a more systematic way and in a way that ensures that subnationals are able to feed into the investment plans and programs, etc., that are being developed, and build their capacity to engage in those dialogues in a continuous manner with their national government counterparts and vice versa. So I think that's one learning that links the two questions that have been asked in this section, right? The connection between multi-level governance and the enabling environment for accessing climate finance. I think one example to give of a kind of mechanism within the finance space that we've been supporting is coordination mechanisms at the partner level. So recognizing that there are many financial institutions, national, multilateral, subnational networks that are active in a country operating as subnational climate finance providers or facilitators, and they don't always interact or communicate with each other or coordinate, much less on the delivery of those funds and that technical assistance. And that's what the partners and the providers can really do, is coordinate effectively as a group, align on priorities, understand where things may not be getting the finance that is needed for all of those investments to be effective, and then be able to present that more unified front to national government representatives to assure them that finance is there for subnational needs and that it is worth investing it in national climate policy planning and financing processes. The last thing I would just say is remind the chairs that a colleague at the City of Dakar had indicated interest in speaking as well prior to this segment.
Thank you. For the next speakers, it's just a request so that we can also move into the next session. We just keep the remarks a little bit short. Over to you, Dakar, and then after that, we'll go to UN Habitat.
Bonjour. Just for reminder, my name is Madina. I am a deputy mayor in charge of sustainable development in Dakar City. I tried to give a resume in English, and Marie-José will complete. Thank you for City to give us the opportunity to share Dakar overview in climate action plan. The city of Dakar has committed to develop a territorial climate and energy plant known by PCT from 2021 to 2025, in line with Senegal NDC and the Paris Agreement. Dakar was responsible for 27 of national emission of GEs with stationary energy around 50% and transport 40%. are the main contributor. Dakar climate action plan plan to reduce GS emission by 54% to 2050. Reduce also energy bills in municipal building by 35% and increase the share of renewable energy. For finance, for the Dakar Action Plan, Climate Action Plan, we have finance from European Union and C40s and local budget of the Dakar city. Since 2016, we have Dakar city benefit from technical and finance support from C40 cities, and we have done an inventory from all the emission in climate for the all gas emission with the development of the PCT, and we have also a technical assistant from C40 cities and an action capacity building developed in collaboration of our direction of sustainable development. We have some difficulties. Main difficulties are the low technical capacity of the municipality teams to mobilize resources, the limited access to direct international financing. We have also difficulties to access to reliable data. The estimated needs for action, climate action, are 4 billion for adaptation. This funding is needed to strengthening Senegal's resilience to climate impact. And also the needs for mitigation is estimated at 8 billion. This estimation is for investment required to reduce emission and achieve the NDC targets. So for COP 30, what we want is direct access to international fundings, and this direct access could help us to accelerate the implementation of our local project and enable us to achieve the national objectives. We expect the role of local and national subnational government must be formally recognized in international negotiation. The capacity building for elected official and technical staff in setting up viable project. And to finish, we just recall that to have result for climate action, we need local government. So it will be very good result in for COP 30. We have more effect and more result how go effectively for these targets. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jose can give maybe a little bit resume in English.
And I think
This is
that's
okay.
okay. No, I
Thank
think
you.
that's fine.
Thank you.
So I will invite you and Habitat, Brazil and South Africa. Please, if you can keep your remarks to 2 minutes each, because we are all now talking about the road to COP30, and that's the next discussion that we're getting into so that we can create ample time for it. So you and Habitat, Brazil, South Africa, please keep the remarks very, very short. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Definitely keeping it short as we want to hear from our local and national representatives. I'm Leah from UN Habitat, and I just want to reflect on the type of support. I'm here to offer support to all the local and national government representatives, specifically on the NDC planning and implementation process. In case, you might have heard, we've been doing a study on urban content of the NDC. The last round of NDCs had approximately a quarter of them had strong urban content, meaning that cities were a priority in these NDCs. And if we looked into finance, as I guess it does not come as a surprise that almost all NDCs made a link to the need for finance in order to implement climate action. But only very few made a link to the need for local climate finance, showing a big disconnect between the needs at the local level and what is written in these NDCs. So this is here where I'm happy to offer support on behalf of UN Habitat. I know many countries have already submitted their NDCs. In case you have not done so, we're happy to support you if you want to strengthen that urban component. And we also have a program that talks about implementation of the NDCs. So we are happy to support you in implementing this urban angle of your next NDCs. And as our representative from Kenya has said, COP30 must be a different COP, and I know we will be talking about that in the next segment. I think it will be a different COP. We are working with the COP30 presidency, with the Ministry of Cities, and many other partners, LGMA, UNEP, towards bringing cities and regions to the heart of the COP negotiations and to the heart of COP30. We'll be hosting the 4th Ministerial Meeting on Urbanization and Climate Change. We're working towards that, and the Cities and Regions Hub, and using also the new urban agenda as an opportunity to bring cities and regions more into the UNFCCC process. So again, an open invitation to join us in this process. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Brazil?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, to give me the floor. Very short. I do like to stress this debate is very critical. So devastate, especially for the developed cultures, Brazil, that the disaster that occurred last year in Rio Grande do Sul remind me our urgence to advance in adaptation effort. In Brazil, some best practices have proven fundamental to engage states and municipalities in design and implementation our NDC and national adaptation plans. So among them, I do like to highlight the strength of the local practice through the training programs and initiatives such as Adapta Cities, which support municipal in developing adaptation plan instruments. The participatory process building sector and municipal adaptation plan ensures that local perspectives are embedded into national strategy, and the implementation of pilot experience in select cities, which serve as reference and a scalable model for others. Regarding the most effective mechanism for vertical integration, Brazil has been invested in federative government arrangement designed to align federal, state, and municipal level in the coordinated way. Finally, the participation of Brazil state and city in international networks such as ICLEI and C40 has been key for fostering exchange of good practice and ensures that local action reinforce national commitment. In short, we believe that the combination of capacity building technical support initiative incentivate mechanism in federative government is essential to strengthen integration across level of the government to accelerate climate actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. South Africa?
Good afternoon. So although I am from South Africa, my colleague on my left helped me out with a sign before I was given mine. But here I'm actually representing LGMA along with C40 and others. I lead the sustainable energy team at ICLEI Africa, and you would have heard some of our mayors speak today. So our focus is on translating global pledges into action, both from the kind of technical support side and direct project implementation. I wanted to build on what Mr. Lee spoke about earlier and also what UN Habitat's representative just spoke about, and kind of answer both question 1 and 2 for this session. With our e-motor project in Rwanda, currently in Kigali, what we're doing there is creating the financial and regulatory environment for e-mobility transition, and we're showing how targeted technical assistance, but also the blended finance can unlock low carbon transport. We're collaborating actually with UNEP on their e-mobility project also in Kigali. So from this project, it's clear what we found is that if we're just offering the finance through, in this case, BRD, the Development Bank of Rwanda, the if the skills are not also transferred, and if the direct technical support over multiple years is not provided, the finances is not good enough. So here it's going to be a 5-year project essentially, and over that period we are building the capability of the teams within the Green Fund and BRD. And then just one other project in South Africa, we're supporting municipalities as part of embedded generation towards just transition through regulatory reform, as well as supporting on project pipelines, and that's in partnership with DBSA. So that leads to kind of 3 lessons that I want to share and hear input from those in the room. It kind of leads to the next session on building towards COP30. So I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but what I'm doing is posing what possibly we could get behind as a cohesive and collaborative group. So firstly, alignment matters. So national commitments can only deliver when local governments are resourced and recognized as implementers. And that echoes what Ewan Habitat mentioned. Finance must flow locally. So secondly, finance must flow locally. Often it flows only to national. So that's grant and blended finance mechanisms. We can't rely entirely on finance. Grant funding is dwindling. It's a huge issue. And at least where finance is involved, we need to support with grant funding. Municipal credit enhancements, pipeline aggregation, they're all essential to move from plans to bankable action. And thirdly, and this is why we're here, and I hope that we can strengthen it, capacity and partnerships are critical. So here, intermediary organizations, technical experts, and city networks can help translate ambition into delivery. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move into the next session, and I'd like us to focus our attention to road to COP30 and beyond, looking at the collective priorities for COP30 and identify ways to ensure that multi-level action becomes central to future climate negotiations. In particular, what are the top priorities that local subnational governments would like to see in COP30 outcomes? What concrete steps can be taken better reflect local and subnational perspectives and priorities and support multi-level action in the lead up to COP30 and beyond? So first, I would like to invite our icebreaker speakers, Mr. Ivan Botha, Member of Executive Council, Gauteng, South Africa, Ms. Champa Patel, Executive Director, Under 2 Coalition, and then after that, we'll open the floor to discussion. Over to you, Mr. Ewan Botha.
Thank you very much. I must commend you also on getting my name pretty much correct.
For a second there, I thought I had butchered it.
It's Gauteng, though. I will correct you on that, but otherwise, very well done. Thank you very much. So I come from a province in South Africa, which has 11 municipalities, 529 wards, and 15 million people. It's responsible for 1/3 of South Africa's GDP, which obviously places an enormous amount of pressure on the environment as well. As far as I'm concerned, that's a great opportunity for us to be the benchmark as a province, not only in South Africa, but Africa as a whole, to show what we can do when we're put under those sorts of pressures. My role largely as an MEC seems to be something that's agency-based. I'm able to issue fines up to 5 million rand, but I'm also able to create relationships. And we're running a program called Industrial Symbiosis, whereby we bring companies that are trying to get rid of their waste with companies that are looking for their waste. And that way, hopefully start to stimulate an industry. I also have environmental management inspectors who are out there reporting and monitoring and verifying that everyone is playing by the rules. Now, I think in terms of the road to COP30, some of the most important things that we need to focus on are financial incentives that are not just based on regulations. These incentives need to be mechanisms that make sustainability profitable. They need to enable the local economies to thrive while cutting emissions. We're looking at something where I always ask myself the question, why does anyone care about what we're doing? Why does anyone care about the environment? And until such time as we start to tie back some sort of profitability, some sort of form of monetary compensation, some sort of incentive to the environment, we're just going to keep circulating around how we force people to do things as opposed to how we incentivize people to do things. So this also then feeds into green job creation and industry development. Climate action needs to create industries, unlock supply chains, and build skills, especially for youth and women. I was given a stat the other day where our waste pickers in Gauteng. So what will happen is that it's a largely unregulated environment, and what will happen is that our waste pickers will actually go and dig in your bin, take away that rubbish or that waste, and they'll take it to a field or to a warehouse or some abandoned building. And where the separation happens, 56% of those people are female. And it's crucial for us to understand that we're not only doing something environmental that focuses on the environment here, but we're also doing something that needs to keep our women and our environment safe. And this is why the regulation and regularization of this industry are absolutely critical. We also need direct access to climate finance. I was asking some questions earlier about where does this money go that we're talking about? We're talking about triple Ps. We're talking about all sorts of exciting things globally. There's trillions that are raised, at least in South African rands, perhaps not in dollars, but billions that are raised in dollars at the very least. Where is this money going? And it's ending up at a national level, and there's some things that filter down to a local level, but I don't think that we're able to quite communicate what we're looking for from an environmental standpoint just yet. And this actually, again, needs to feed into spaces as a government. We need to create that environment where we're looking at how are industries seeing the gaps in the market? How are they taking advantage of those particular particular needs that the community are looking for? Because again, it's monetized. We're talking about SMEs. I'm glad to hear that a lot of that sort of discussion has come up because they need the support. And I've gone to visit done a lot of groundwork recently, where I've gone to visit these enterprises, and they're saying, look, if we could just get 1 or 2 million rand, we can really start to create jobs. And these things also lower crime rates and also stuff like that. So we do need to look at how at a subnational and particularly local level, we can get that direct access to the funding. And it's not something that's filtering through simply as a grant, because those grants come and go. And the less benefit people are seeing in grants, particularly those who are giving the grants, the quicker those grants get cut. And this is just not washing its own face. The technology and capacity transfer that needs to happen through the support of MRV systems, renewable energy production, and circular economy infrastructure at a local level. I think circular economy is something that's actually incredibly valuable. And then finally, market shaping partnerships to build collaborations that turn Africa from importers into innovators and exporters to green industries. And I think this is where an opportunity lies for us at this level, at this forum, to start to look at how we can enter into MOUs. What are you doing in your country that perhaps I'm not able to do in mine, that is, again, going to stimulate environmentally friendly practices? Then just very quickly onto the second question. We need to embed local targets into national commitments. We've just recently run our stakeholder engagement in Gauteng through our NDCs, so I'm glad to hear that the UN has spoken about that. We are on top of it. However, when we did this, I realized that the NDC can be quite challenging for businesses. And again, I think this is where we need to start focusing as COP30 to understand that businesses are going to dictate the direction that we go in largely. And this is going to happen because businesses are saying that the targets that you're setting for us are too strenuous. They're a burden and they completely destroy our profits. And that means that either they're going to give us false information, or they're simply not going to do it, and they're going to wait until they get caught, at which point it's cheaper for them to pay some sort of fine than it is to simply comply with whatever we've set out in our NDCs. So we need to be very, very cautious about how we approach that. Again, prioritize industry building over dependencies. Instead of importing all green technologies, investing in local manufacturing, skills transfer, and innovation hubs, Africa must become a producer, not just a consumer, in renewable energy and circular economy value chains. I think looking at the amount of carbon emissions that we as Africa are responsible for, we can really very quickly deal with what we're responsible for to get to a zero. But we can also begin to push the boundaries of what innovation looks like. And we can start to show Europe and the Americas what it looks like when you actually start to apply your mind to something that is an industry and not just an environmental concern. Then strengthen multi-level governance frameworks. I'm very proud to say that within the 11 municipalities that we do have under the province of Gauteng, have signed an MOU with each and every single one of them. And this is to establish a formal coordination platforms. We've got technical clusters. So our bureaucrats will meet on a weekly basis to discuss what's happening with illegal dumping, because illegal dumping leads to a lot of burning, which is again carbon emissions. So we've also got a very good relationship with the national government, who I think is doing a fantastic job, by the way. And this is also data sharing. It's an understanding of how the budgets work. I'm very excited to get to know a little bit more about the green budgets and also how implementation plans align, because there are a lot of cross-cutting services, even provincially. So the next step will be to go and speak to the MECs in the provinces around mine. Gauteng's provincial MRV system is an example of how local data can feed international and global reporting. So I think, just as a broad take, as I finish, largely what we need to try and push through COP30 is how do we take environmental best practices and make them an industry that can rival oil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause. Ms. Champa Patel.
Shadow. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to keep it very brief because a lot of what we wanted to share on behalf of the LGMA constituency has already been shared. So I don't want to belabor the point because I think we're all reinforcing the same points. My name is Champa Patel. I'm Executive Director for Governments and Policy at the Climate Group, and I'm here on behalf of the Under 2 Coalition with our friends from Gauteng and Cross River State as well. So let me start with this. I think it's been said by everybody that local and regional governments are integral partners to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. I don't think there's any dispute about that amongst us here. This is where ambition becomes reality, where policies turn into clean energy, resilient infrastructure, and low carbon transport. But how can we make this actually happen in the road to COP? So there are a few ideas that we wanted to share, and some of this has already been stated. First, we do think that there is a need for a formal mechanism under the UNFCCC focused on local government implementation. And what might this look like? We could launch a time-bound work program between parties and local governments that consolidates data and recognizes subnational contributions, including the IPCC special report on cities that's due to come out in 2027. Secondly, we could establish an annual implementation forum at COP. We have, this would build on the climate weeks that we're all familiar with, including the Africa Climate Week that we're taking part in right now. The Local Leaders Forum, some of you will have been part of this gathering of local and state regional governments at COP28 in Dubai, and we hope to do so again with the support of the COP30 presidency in Rio this year, and the UN Habitat Ministerial. So these are two practical ways in which we can start integrating the work of subnationals into existing processes, a time-bound work program, and an annual implementation forum. The second, and it's already been said by colleagues, is we must institutionalize multi-level finance. This is critical. There is no crisis of ambition at the subnational level, but there is a financing gap. And it's been talked about for a very long time. It's not something that's new. A new discussion. Globally, less than 10% of climate finance actually reaches subnational governments, despite the fact that nearly 90% of climate solutions are implemented at the local level. If we want to accelerate action, if we want to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement, we have to supercharge this level of government. It isn't just a question of quantity of finance, it's a structural gap in the financial system that Carlos and others have spoken to, that it's really important that we remedy. What could this mean? Well, we could set clear allocation targets for finance at COP30 in terms of what should reach local and regional governments. We could require parties to disaggregate climate finance flows in their biennial stumbling over that word, biennial transparency report, so we can track how much finance actually reaches local levels. And I think what's critical here, because we've talked about the financing gap, but local cities, states, and regions are also contributors to the system through their fiscal powers, through taxation, through green bonds, through subnational development banks, through some of the levies that some of the states are innovating with at the moment. They can also help mobilize the revenue that we know is needed to staircase from 300 billion to 1.3 trillion. And just to give one example, the Quebec government has a carbon levy through which they contribute to the global goal on adaptation. States can be contributors to the global goals, but they need a space to be able to do so. And then finally, to empower, as I just mentioned, subnational development banks and leverage these mechanisms in country platforms, as our colleagues have already shared. The payoff could be enormous. Low carbon urban investments alone could yield 23.9 trillion in returns by 2050. We have to build the steps in now. So to conclude, on behalf of LGMA, we strongly believe that with such steps, COP30 can really be that pivotal moment where we unlock the full potential of local and regional governments. So thank you. I'll just leave it there.
Thank you very much. So we'd like to open the floor, but unfortunately we can only have 2 speakers because of time. Kenya?
Thank you very much. I'm not going to speak. I have spoken, but I have an announcement to make. As said by my colleague, the finance ministers have got critical role. We will be organizing on 8th under the Prevent Finance Ministers meeting. If your finance minister will be here, please liaise with us so that we put them into the right position. If your finance minister will be here, I appeal to you through the moderator, please let him or her attend Africa Climate Finance Ministers meeting to move this agenda to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter Odhengo. We have one more. Zimbabwe.
Thank you. I am Dr. Gabriela Alberola. I research the subnational distribution of climate finance. And something that I would like to see addressed is the lack of data to track where finances end up subnationally in a systematic way, echoing what Mr. Botha said and Ms. Patel said, but taking it a step further. Countries have standard subnational units, and there is no reason why in 2025 we can't see a detailed map of hotspots and cold spots of climate finance allocation. It really matters because this would allow us to track equity and transparency. In my research, I find that this lack of subnational systematic tracking opens the door for misuse, for clientelism, and for leaving the most vulnerable communities behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the participants, from mayors to national delegates to civil society and development partners, for your thoughtful contributions today. This dialogue has made it clear that subnational and local leadership is key to implementing and scaling up global ambitions. And at the same time, global frameworks need to be shaped by responsive to and reinforcing local realities to ensure lasting, inclusive climate impact. So, to wrap up our conversation and look forward to COP30, I would like to invite Mr. Philip Young, COP30 Special Envoy for Urban Solutions, to deliver his closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Monique and Corazon, for having me. My name is Philip Yang. I'm a dispassion boy, and I serve as the extended eyes and ears of the COP presidency for Urban Solutions. I'm a small part of Bruna's team here with the huge mission of helping to helping bring cities and subnationals to the core of climate policy during our COP30 in Belém. So I'm an antenna for urban solutions that should be showcased, debated, and leveraged in Belém. Please think of me as a channel between your ideas, experiences, and projects and their potential realization, discussion, and sharing at COP30. So it is really great to be exposed to everything that was discussed here. Solutions and successful cases mentioned are certainly encouraging and inspiring examples. My impulse here would be to say at least one sentence of about every knowledge that you shared here. Of course, this is not possible, so I will dare to make a few comments in the form of 3 or 4 pieces of general suggestions or advices that come to my mind when I think of leveraging solutions, when I think of bringing the subnational to multilateral closer together, when I think of coordinating the national to subnationals. So the first one is a simple one, is to simplify. I think at COP30 we need simplicity more than anything. One of our greatest obstacles is not a lack of ambition, but the complexity and inefficiency of climate governance. We risk being drowned in overloaded agendas, in overloaded negotiations, complex mechanisms. So whatever you do when you try to scale up, it must pass a test. Does it reduce complexity or it adds to it? If it adds to it, we better think twice about what we are doing. The second piece of advice would be to leverage what already exists. Before creating new mechanisms, let us use the toolbox that we already have. For example, this is my favorite example. Think of the new urban agenda that is already endorsed by every country, that already connects national commitments to local action. Reinvention is not the answer. Perhaps effective use is. I'm a super big fan of the CHAMP principles, but I think that the best shortcut that we would have to adopt the CHAMP principles is by adopting first the new urban agenda into the UNFCCC, and then bringing the CHAMP principles into the new urban agenda. This is the sort of shortcuts that we have to think whenever we think of leveraging or conceiving new tools for moving forward our agenda. My third suggestion is to form coalitions of power actors, a smaller number of countries, industries, or cities that account for most emissions, or the key players that we should look up to and actually mobilize them. It might be time now for us to think of different geometries of coalitions. Cities under 1 million people, or those, for example, hosting the highest emitting industries, and those are the cities that are invisible to multilateral diplomacy. Perhaps it's time to think in a different fashion, to combine these smaller cities with the highest emitting industries. So the fourth recommendation would be to think of project preparation. Many of you have said that, mentioned so many excellent examples. We frequently hear that the world is a wash of money, but this money don't find the places to be allocated. So I can't think of the greatest gap in this value chain in climate adaptation to be the universe of project preparation. If we put a lot catalytic capital for project preparation, I think we could make a huge advancement in the process of climate adaptation. to cities. So this is my 4 pieces of advice or suggestions. And it's really great to be here in Addis Ababa. I like to think that we are in the cradle of civilization. And yeah, I'd like to think that we are moving towards Berlin, which could be the cradle of a new urban policy. Everyone is talking about a turning point. Hopefully this encounter, it's exactly this turning point that leads to a new Berlin, a new COP, and a new thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. We have come to the end of the session. I was your moderator, Corazon. Have a lovely afternoon.
Ah, que bom. Quero assistir. Tem uma reunião agora às 2 com os partners. Acho que não sei. O pessoal do CS queria promover essa reunião. Eu acho que é com ele.
Acho que é mais para acabando de né? Então, que quando eu está com ele me falou.